Oh, they've done it! Steven Terodde, an instant hero! Can you believe it? Plenty attacking! No! The comeback is complete! A stunning second half from Schalke!
Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo Leute. Willkommen zum das einzige Schalke Podcast auf Englisch. Welcome to episode 153 SchalkeMerica. I'm your host Richard Carmen. Join me on this Victory Monday / Wednesday podcast. Co-host Jack Mangan. Jack, happy Victory Wednesday.
Victory Monday on a Wednesday. Once again, not for the first time this season. Listen, we have lives, folks. We don't get paid for this. Things are going to happen. But a good excuse this past Monday, my Kansas Jayhawks were busy winning a national championship. So that was the reason for the reschedule. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anyone who's listened to this podcast for a long time will know that Richard and I definitely have sporting interests outside of just the game of soccer. Which, by the way, I'm going to call it soccer as much as possible from now until maybe the end of December, now that we've drawn England in the World Cup. It's a patriotic duty to call it soccer for the next few months. So be prepared for that. Apologies to anybody in Europe who gets annoyed by that listens to us.
I'll hold off to the second season or next season before I start doing that. I'll keep calling it football for now, or maybe foosball, right? Another interesting weekend. The team keeps on rolling. Victory again against Dresden. It's not a team that it could have been a bogey team, right? A team that's at the bottom of the table who we've struggled against. Teams at the bottom of the table. We found a way to win though. And Terodde back on the score sheet twice.
We did. Buskins just keeps getting it done, apparently. 3 in a row now, I think. I mean, Terodde, anytime Terodde scores 2 goals, it's pretty rare that we don't end up winning that game. I think we did have one of those recently, right, where he had the hat trick in Milan. But that's very much an outlier. If you get Terodde going, you're probably doing okay. And nice to see him get involved. One of them was a penalty. Not a particularly well taken penalty, in my opinion, but the second goal was quite nice.
It was. It seemed like he had never taken a penalty before, and that's his first of the year. Up to this point, he had the clean sheet, if you will. He led the league in goals and no penalties for. Every other person in the top 10 had penalties, especially Bergstall had like 3 or 4. So that's his first of the season. And it looked like his first one, right? It wasn't greatly placed. Maybe he saw the keeper going, so he just did it easy. I don't know, but the second goal much nicer. But good result. Good results on the weekend as a whole. All of a sudden, the top 4 is 2 points difference. It's crazy.
Yeah, the table is looking quite nice. But this is what happens when you get a couple of results off in a row. The good news for me is, so we're sitting in 4th place right now on 50 points. The good news is that we have more than a result separating us from 5th. Yeah. So we can't, get dragged down there on the course of one game. And as far as looking above us in the table, we're within 1 result of 1st place. So that's kind of a decent position for us to be in at the moment. And we'll see how long we can kind of keep this little run going. But this is definitely putting us in the position we need to be in into the final stretch here in the season.
And fortune favors the brave. And I mentioned this because if you look to this weekend ahead, Werder Bremen, who's above us, plays St. Pauli, who's above us. And then you also got Darmstadt, who's above us, who plays Nuremberg, who are just below us. If we win this game against Heidenheim, it's a difficult game, things could be very well in our favor. We'll see. Lots to play for still, but
this is a very important weekend, though, across the league. This is a big weekend for Bundesliga 2 action.
Yeah, and I feel the confidence growing in our fans. Utah says we're going to make it, boys. Sambo saying hello, guten Abend. I gotta figure out what time zone I'm in right
there
here.
It is.
But yes, let's get into the game because the lineup was interesting in this one, Jack. A little wrinkles in this lineup here, but in goal, Frazel as normal. Back 4, Malik Thiaw is paired with Kaminski in the middle, with Ouwejan and Loda on the left and right. Flick with Itakura in the middle. You mentioned this in the past, and then the front three behind Terodde, Drexler, Bulter, and Latza. And then Terodde obviously leading the way. He obviously had the 2 goals. Lots to talk about. You mentioned this a couple of weeks ago how it would have been interesting to see with all our healthy horses back, maybe putting Itakura in that midfield. Lo and behold, he gets a start in that role next to Flick. Talk about the lineup here.
Yeah, well, I mean, all 3 of our center backs that are kind of in the main rotation are decent ball playing center backs. And so for that reason, I mean, I think realistically, Itakura is not, it's sort of an unreasonable option in sort of a holding midfield position, especially in a partnership. So I don't mind it. I don't mind, us taking a look at it. To me, it's interesting. We're lining up in a 4-2-3-1. Essentially, which is not something we've been playing for most of the season, and it's also just personnel wise interesting because the sort of nominal wingers in that sort of a setup are decidedly unwinger like in terms of sort of like a player archetype. You have Donny Latza on the left hand side, and then Drexler on the right hand side, which is strange, and then Bolter playing sort of the number 10 position. So interesting. Nice to have Ouwejan back, by the way, because he's so that's something that's always a big thing for us. And I'm never going to complain about Florian Flick minutes until I think he's not deserving to be there. And a mixed bag from him in this game. We'll get into that, but yeah, overall I'm okay with the lineup. We just need to figure out our right back situation because I thought Loda was unfortunately probably the weak link in this team.
Yeah, made a big mistake. Could have been a big mistake when he fell early in the first half. The last 2 weeks, really. The first week under Buskins, we really didn't tinker too much with the lineup. Last week, we saw 4-2-3-1 for the first time. And this week, again, with the 4-2-3-1. It's interesting with the Itakura in there because he is capable. I mean, all our center backs are capable, right? But Itakura is such a strong player defensively and offensively. He had a great setup for Ouwejan late in the game, which you need to score a header off of when we're already up 2-0 at that point. Itakura's got the skill set to play mold. He's very versatile. So it's nice to see him next to Flick because both of them can complement each other with defense and offensive abilities. Drexler, we've seen him already in this kind of position. So, he's hardworking. He's always going to bring it. Latza, I was curious to see how he would do. I thought he did decent for what he was expecting, what he was called upon to do. And Bolter and Terodde doing their things. Always happy to see Ouwejan, and then Kaminski. I thought fairly strong showing for playing center back. You would think normally it would be either Itakura or maybe Sane in the starting position, but Kaminski held his own. I thought in this one for the most part. So yeah, it was an interesting lineup. And then looking at the bench, the only note of this one, Paulson and Çalhanoğlu get inserted onto the bench, and Marvin Pieringer was out. But other than that, it was pretty much the same lineup.
I appreciate you shouting out Kaminski because that's a fair point. I think there's, I'm not saying conventional wisdom, but there'd be maybe a suspicion that he could be exposed in a 2 center back pairing, as opposed to having the cover of a third guy in there. And I think you're right. I think he, for the most part, acquitted himself quite well, and I didn't really have an issue with him at all in this one. But also not surprising though, because as we've said all season, like you and I have pretty high confidence in all 3 of these guys. So
yeah. And what's nice about Itakura playing where he did in this game is that he can drop back if he needs to. He's so good at reading the game. If he sees a breakdown, which he did a couple times this game, he jumps back in there and helps out like another center back. So it's because he is a center back, right? So it's really a sneakily good defensive setup for us. We're already the best defense in the league, or second best, I guess. So one team has less goals than us, but pretty good lineup for us overall. Looking at Dresden, not that I knew anybody in the lineup, but their starting 11 are Kevin Brohl, Michael Akoto, who I thought had a decent game, Tim Knipping, the captain, Heinz Morschel, Chris Löw, Morris Schroeder, Michael Saltbauer, Vaclav Darchel, Paul Will, Julius Kidd, and Oliver Batista Meyer. Akoto, I thought, had a decent game in this game. Obviously, the goal scorer, he wasn't the goal scorer, but I think it was Knipping who got the goal. Decent lineup. I thought they played above expectations for them. Thoughts on Dresden in this game?
I thought Löw was good as well. Wasn't it Will that scored the goal?
Maybe you're right. Yeah.
Because maybe I'm incorrect.
No, you're right. 28. It was 28.
He had an absolute roller coaster of a match in a lot of ways. Subject to a yellow card early for a Bolter dive, which maybe we'll talk about. And then ultimately redemption with the goal. But a couple sketchy moments from him. I think he's the one. I think he's the one that actually committed the penalty for Terodde's first as well.
Yes, he did. He did.
Yeah,
He did
so
very
yellow card
game.
prior to that, then the Terodde thing, and then ends up pulling one back. But he was involved in a lot of the pivotal moments in this match, one way or another.
He was. Let's talk about that Bolter play real quick, because you thought it was a dive. I too thought it was a dive until I saw the replay. So when you're watching it live and you watch the initial replay, it looks like a clear dive. It looked like he didn't touch him at all. You watch, there's a second angle they showed where the trailing foot, the first foot misses incomplete. The second foot looked like he maybe got Bolter. Still a dive. I didn't think he got him as bad as he did, but I think he got him more than I originally thought. I don't know if you saw that second angle.
Okay. Yeah. So what I will say is this. I promise to, after this podcast, go back and try to find every possible angle, and I withhold the right to retract the following statements. And I apologize in advance to Bolter if Richard, if your vision of this is correct. To me, it looked like there was no contact at all, and he went down screaming and writhing in pain, brought the medical staff out, and gets an opponent a yellow card. And listen, like I'm not trying to be like a homer. I try to be consistent across the board. I consistently bring up the Timo Werner thing, from years ago. So like when somebody on my team does it, I'm going to call it out as well. And like, I love the edge that Bolter brings to our team in the game. I just hope it doesn't manifest itself in this way continuously going forward, because I'm just not a fan of that kind of stuff. But like you said, maybe there actually was some contact. I'll go back and look at it. My first view was that there was zero contact at all, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, Utah's even saying the same thing as the second foot got his ankle. So I do think he dove. Because I thought that even though the second foot got him, I think it wasn't enough to warrant a scream and medical attention, all that stuff. I thought it was a bit extreme. But the first couple replays I watched, looked like he was a complete whiff and he just fell. But if you watch there's a third replay or third angle or second angle, whatever. It looked like his back foot, the trailing foot of Vil, got the ankle. So anyway. The point was standing. The crowd.
You need to be a VAR official. You need to be the VAR.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Let's go to Richard in the studio.
I will say that the crowd quickly turned their back. Not that they liked Bolter in the first place. It's anytime he touched the ball, they were just whistling him. So understandably, right. But the game was very tight, Jack. Overall, but especially the first half, I thought Dresden were playing better than they expected. I thought we weren't playing necessarily bad, but I thought Dresden were pushing the tempo, trying to keep pace with us. And it really wasn't until just before halftime. Nice pressing by Schalke, forced a turnover. I don't remember if it was Bolter originally with the press, but it was Terodde and Drexler got involved. Turnover happened. Drexler quickly gets to Terodde. Terodde goes on a break, which you rarely see with him running with the ball. Made a nice move on Vil. Vil takes him down in the box. Clear penalty. Good call there. And again, with Terodde with the questionable finish, but he scored. Thoughts on that play overall and leading up to that and the penalty there?
I mean, the first thing I just want to say real quick is, I thought the first 15 minutes from us in this game were pretty poor. And then even in the rest of the first half, I thought that Dresden definitely had the better of it. I thought we were much better on both ends of the ball in the second half, and a lot of hoofball from us, which is not good for obviously sustaining possession. Once again, inability to kind of like string a few passes together. But anyway, to the play in question, I think it was maybe like initially like a ball that came out from the goalkeeper to one of the center backs, gets played to Knipping, who I think is there's two people pressing him down, and Drexler's coming from like the blind side of him and gets him into trouble. Yeah, it gets him into trouble. Yeah, and like you said, it frees him. And then just kind of a weird challenge from Vil in the box. Like, it was a really half-hearted trailing leg kind of thing. It wasn't. I don't know what he was really thinking there. Maybe Terodde made a meal of it too, because he's a big guy, and I don't think like the contact that we saw was really like enough to bring him down that convincingly. But anyway, definitely contact, and then the penalty from him. Yeah, like I said earlier at the start of the pod, like kind of unconvincing. He hits it into the area that I always kind of refer to as no man's land. I always divide horizontally a goal into 5 zones, right. The post, 2 central ones, and then like the actual one. And I don't want to hit it into those spaces 2 and 4 essentially. And he hits it into one of those, but goalkeeper goes the wrong way. And maybe he waited long enough to know that the goalkeeper was going there, but not a lot of power, not great placement, but it goes in. That's all that counts. And the goals continue to come from Terodde even here in the second half of the season.
Man can do no wrong. It seems like he's been on a tear. Was that 5 goals now in 3 games, something like that? So he's starting to get hot now. At the end of the season at the right time. Not that he wasn't hot all season, right? I mean, actually, he had a little bit of a lull in the early winter, I would say. But yeah, 1-0 lead going to halftime. Hard to say it was deserving lead. I think it was fairly even first half. Possession wise, going into the second half, they would start to have more and more of it because. Starting to the second half, good pressure by Schalke early on in the first 5 minutes of the game. I noticed that right after the second half, like you said, good intensity coming out there, lots of pressing on the ball, causing turnovers, end up leading to the only corner kick of the game. They end up keeping the ball into the box area, moves around. Terodde kind of forces the ball out wide somehow with his big body moving around, and Drexler gets it. Or excuse me, Tiao muscles the defender off of it, gives it back to Drexler, who crosses in, and Terodde with a beautiful header for the goal, 2-0. Well done. I mean, Tiao's got to get a lot of credit for that. Drexler's going to get the plaudits for the assist, but Tiao with the muscle shoulder to shoulder, I mean, he's got to give a secondary assist for that, right?
No, I'm with you. I'm with you all the way, and I'm glad that we're both shouting that out because that play doesn't happen without Malik Chow making an excellent hustle play. Kind of sprinting from pretty far away across the box, and then putting a nice shoulder challenge in to win that ball and kick it back to Drexler, who fortunately was playing on the right hand side in this game. We always talk about how he's only capable of crossing with his right foot, and he's early in the season he's coming down the left and has to stop and so maybe so there you go. You can see what can happen when you put Drexler maybe on the dominant crossing side. It plays a nice ball in, and it continues to mystify me how Zeman Terodde can be unmarked in the box, particularly on aerial. There is nobody marking him. Yeah. He is standing in a zone of maybe 3 yards in a circle all around him, 3 yards, and there's just no one there. And I mean it's really nicely directed, and goalkeeper makes an effort to it. And maybe you can argue that some goalkeeper might have done better, but it was a decent dive, and it's a really nice header, nice goal. Yeah. So well done for Schalke, like you said, coming out much better team immediately. I felt like in the second half with that extra pressure, started making things happen. Flick was better in the second half, was putting in some nice defensive plays, helping spring some things, and good stuff.
Yeah. Schalke nearly made it 3-0. I think it was 3. I think it was 2-0 at the point where Ko Itakura got the ball, did this nice over the top cross that found Ouwejan on the back door and just went over the bar. And then moments after that, good play by Dresden pushing the attack. They ended up getting a free kick from Drexler. Must have been tired at that point. Got a senseless free kick. Really shouldn't have done it because Loda was in position. Loda was yelling at him after that foul. But it leads to a free kick, and it ended up being a goal. Past Fraza, nothing really Fraza could have done on there. It was really little place in the corner. 2-1 at that point. Despite how tight the game was, I wasn't worried that Dresden were going to come back. Our defense has been playing a lot better lately. Having Itakura and Flick back there, and eventually Paulson, I felt very comfortable with our defense. I don't know if you felt the same way when that goal went in by Dresden.
I mean, they had some possession in the final third in the second half, but I know what you mean. It wasn't off. They didn't have that many shots. They didn't create that. They had a better first half. We had a better second half. And while I do think our lead, going into halftime was maybe undeserving, I agree. I think I had seen enough probably in the first 15 minutes of the second half to feel relatively confident about how we were playing, and that just kind of got better, especially with some of the subs that came on. Like Cherlinov obviously added a lot of pace and everything, and so I think that's a fair sentiment. I think they only had 3 shots in the second half maybe, but what I would say is I don't think it was as I don't agree maybe that it was quite as convincing of a performance overall.
Sure.
I thought we may have been mildly lucky to kind of get out of there with a 2-1 or a win, because especially as you said, we had opportunities for an insurance goal that we probably should have taken advantage of in this one.
Yeah. And you could argue, Ouwejan's going to try to take that shot every time, but he had Bolter wide open to the side. So he found a way. It would have been hard to do, but if he had flicked it over to Bolter, it would have been wide open in front of the goal, would have been scored there. But either way, you got to put those away, and a better team maybe would have made us pay for our mistake for missing there. But overall, shots 9-9 in this game, which explains what, it was a very even game. You mentioned, not many shots on target. They only had 1 shot on target really all game long. And that was the goal. They had more possession, obviously, because they're playing catch up most of the game, and really just the way we were playing, it seems like it didn't give them. It gave them a lot more opportunities than they needed. But nonetheless, we win the game 2-1, led by Terodde, leads the league, 21 goals now. Not a convincing performance, I agree. Lots of people are saying that, but we got the win, right? Earlier in the season, we would have these games that are not convincing, and we'd either draw or lose. So it's a good sign. We got somewhat 3 wins in a row now under Buskins. Got Heidenheim next, and then we got a tough gauntlet. All top five going to be playing against each other, trying to knock each other off. So we'll see what's going on here. But yeah, it's a good result nonetheless. We needed it.
Yeah. And the important thing, Terodde, both healthy at the moment. Ouwejan back, still have a couple injuries, but got a couple pieces back, and they're playing well at the moment. So hopefully we can keep that going and have most of our guns blazing into the kind of the final firefight here in the last few weeks of the season. Will be interesting to see what continues to happen with maybe the evolution of sort of the shape that we play. Maybe we'll continue to see that 4-2-3-1. The Itakura in midfield thing is an interesting wrinkle. I think I'd like to see it more before I have maybe a fully formed opinion on it. But I don't disagree with you that it was, intriguing in this one for sure. And that it, definitely offers you a different look. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have those kind of problems and as many options as we do.
For sure. And now, after the results from this weekend, Werder sits at the top at 52. Darmstadt and St. Pauli locked at 51. We are at 50. As you mentioned, a little bit of a cushion between Nuremberg. They're at 46. And then Hamburg, they won yesterday, make it 1-4-0 against whoever the hell they played. But they're back in 45. So really, the top 4 are really moving and grooving. Every team in the top 4 has got a loss in the last 5 games. We have just as many wins. I mean, they're almost all mimicking each other in terms of results. 1 draw, 3 wins, and a loss. I mean, it's tight at the top. It can't get any tighter. We'll see what's going to happen here after this weekend. Yeah, man, it's crazy what's going on here. But 6 games to go. I mean, Schalke has it in their hands right now. They play the teams that they have to beat to get to the next level. Schalke put out this long email to its members, and it went on and on about many things. But one of the things I found interesting in the email to the members was that they said that we're actually surprised how well the team is doing and that we're in a promotion spot because we planned a 3-year plan for us to get back to the Bundesliga. And so possibly getting back in our first year was surprising to us. And I said, oh, you have a 3-year plan. That's interesting. I mean, one, they felt comfortable enough that finances would allow them to stay in the Bundesliga 3 years if needed be. But I was surprised to hear that. Maybe 2 years I would maybe expect, but 3 years, I guess if you look at Hamburg, it is possible. You could be 3 years or more. So thoughts on Schalke's, supervisory board saying, the plan ultimately was 3 years to get back to Bundesliga, not 1 or 2, as many of us think.
Well, I mean, I think that's certainly comforting in a certain way to know that they were thinking long-term potentially, and that they felt like they could weather that, because that was very much the conversation point was, if we don't bounce back up, what does that mean for our financial viability long-term? I did see something recently that they had cleared a significant amount of the debt off the books already.
Yes.
And so it definitely seems like they've made pretty good progress so far, much more to be done, but that they're maybe ahead of schedule even from where they thought they were going to be potentially. I do find it interesting though that, because that wasn't my opinion based on what happened with the squad overhaul. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like going out and getting Terodde is to me a statement of intent, if nothing else. I mean, like what else? How else do you look at that? That seems to be. I know he got extended for another year now, but that was essentially like, don't care that he's old. This guy gets goals. Short-term move to see if we, that kind of thing. And I thought we did a good job with the, under the financial circumstances with the squad. And I felt like we've had one of the stronger squads in the league all season long. So yeah, to hear that they weren't expecting that is, I guess it raises an eyebrow, but it at the same time kind of gives me some heart that maybe there was some longer term, smarter thinking happening, behind the scenes. How did you feel about the news?
I felt the exact same way, because I would have thought, obviously with the moves, that it'll be we have to hurry up and go, because all the rumors we heard is that we can't afford financially to stay in this Zweite Liga. It just with the budget and all this and that and everything, and the debt, there's no way we'd be able to survive. And now they're saying like, I mean, obviously they were doing some magic in the background to try to get rid of some of that debt. And to have a 3-year plan was very surprising to me. I mean, like I said, like you said, I agree. It shows that I'm glad to see that they had long-term vision with this, because there is a possibility. I mean, Hamburg is a prime example, but it was a little bit of that. Like, yeah, we're playing long-term, but let's see what happens if we just, give a strong team. They had to do a strong team because they had nobody from last year, right? They got rid of so many people. So you bring in Terodde, who's almost like you want to go for it right now. Guys like Ouwejan, Itakura made some nice moves. Schroeder, obviously doing all the magic there. So it was very definitely raised an eyebrow, but yeah, let's see. We're in a good position at the moment. This is where we wanted to be end of the season. We talked about it at the beginning. It's like we just want to be within arm's reach of possible promotion. We're 1 point now out of a promotion spot. Got to keep fighting. But before we get back to the game, because I do want to talk more about the game.
Sure.
Part of that debt relief, I guess, is and we mentioned this a couple podcasts ago, maybe last podcast, and Samo brings it up. Dunch is another sponsor we picked up. It is a equipment type of company, like a Steel or a Echo or something like that. It's a landscape company type of commercial equipment. So another sponsor, more money. I mean, you can't hate that, right? Obviously dropping our former sponsor and going with Viva West, which has been on the kit lately. And adding all these little sponsors here and there, trying to make up some of the money that they lost. It's some good moves, good wheeling and dealing. But I think we finally have a supervisory board and leadership that we feel confident and are doing actually some good work, as opposed to the last 5-10 years. But any other comment before we go back into the game? Because there was some good stuff in the game I want to talk about.
No, yeah, we can go back to the game for sure.
All right. Thoughts on some of the better players in the game for you, and maybe not such good players.
Yeah, so for me, I said it earlier. I think Loda was probably the weak link in this one. Not just the slip earlier in the game, which can happen to anyone, to be honest, at any moment. But I think there was another moment that I'm forgetting in the second half where he made a mistake that very easily could have ended in a goal, and he kind of got away with it too, and just didn't provide a whole lot going forward for us. Just to me, wasn't involved in the game that much. I know like he had those 2 assists on his debut. But yeah, I don't know. Not nearly as convincing a performance from me. Latza, I mean, well, let's hold off on Latza for the time being. I'll actually answer your question first. Sorry. I mean, Terodde 2 goals. He's obviously going to be up there. I thought Bolter actually played quite well.
Yeah.
Did a lot of things for us. Once again, dropping deeper, helping the early phases of build up. But then also being several times in this game, the guy playing the final ball in, like, one of the furthest forward players, on the cutback. So, Bolter putting in a good shift, getting all over the pitch. Drexler, solid performance from him. I've said it all season. Guy just puts in, not always noteworthy, but like, reliable performances, nice assists from him, nice effort. Yeah, maybe, shout out Kaminski as well, like you said, just because he was solid and maybe made fewer mistakes that even Chow did in this game, despite Chow having some high moments as well. Maybe more consistent performance from Kaminski.
Yeah, I agree. Flick, I thought, played decently in the game. He made up second half was much better. I thought Itakura was fantastic in this game. He's always fantastic. As I mentioned, a couple of times when Tiao or Kaminski kind of had a breakdown, he was right there to scoop it back up. Flick was also doing the same thing, but Itakura more consistently. You mentioned already about Drexler and Bolter. Loda definitely was the weak link for me. Good to see Ouwejan. It seemed like he didn't want to press the issue too much. He's just come back from injury
and subbed off early.
And he subbed off early for Chalanolo, who's been playing well. So that was really good. But you could tell he wasn't his old self yet. He's still just trying to get back into the game speed, which is fine by me. Good news for us. We were talking about the right wing side being kind of the weak link in this game. Vindheim back in practice now, which is good to see. Now we just need identity back, and as well as Ranfil as well. This week we have some more depth going down the stretch here. But it's Pascal says Drexler doing the dirty work no one wants to do. Yeah, he fights all the time.
Yeah, this is what we always say. Yeah, it's like maybe not the flashiest player on the pitch, maybe not the guy doing the things sometimes that really get you excited, but rarely the one making mistakes and doing a lot of the dirty work and just putting in good shifts pretty consistently. Valuable member of the squad for sure.
So Danny Latza, thoughts on his performance in this one?
Yeah, I didn't think it was bad. For the most part, I just it was decent. I still just am kind of waiting for him to do something. if that makes sense. And maybe I just need to adjust my expectations, but I just didn't feel, and maybe you'll even disagree with my opinion of this game in particular, but I still just kind of feel like I think a player of Latz's profile maybe just has a little bit more expectation in terms of what he can contribute. And some of his performances have been bad. Some of them have been just totally fine. And this was one where I was just kind of like, okay, but still not kind of mandating inclusion into the starting 11 by his performances. He hasn't really taken the reins and kind of, put in a performance that kind of grabs the coach by the shirt cuffs and is like, you have to start me now because of this. How did you feel about him today?
I didn't think he was bad. I think my expectation of Latza is maybe not as high as yours, because I feel like he's a Drexler type of player where not expected to do too much, but he's, as long as he doesn't F up really, right? And he's seen some games really good, some games not so good. He had 2 goals. I don't know if it was in a friendly or was in a real game. I can't remember now. The season's been so long, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, he didn't do anything flashy or anything like that. I didn't think he didn't do anything that cost the team either. I thought he was just a fairly consistent player, was involved in a lot, not as much as Drexler was, because Drexler really doing the dirty work, but I thought Latza was at least, a body there to help support Ouwejan, who obviously isn't full yet or fully ready to play. Would have been better to have a guy like a Salazar. Salazar wasn't available, but maybe like
particularly in that formation, yeah.
Or that formation, or Cherlinov maybe.
Weird position
or
for
Idrizi,
Latza, right?
Another person possibly could have done a lot better. But obviously Buskins had a mindset of how he wanted to play in this game, and he thought Latza would have complemented Ouwejan just enough. And I guess it got the job done. I mean, it didn't really cost the team any goals or anything like that. He had some hustle on some plays where it would be turnovers. He'd get him back, and he was on Akoto all game long while they were both out there. So it was okay performance, I thought.
He's able to shape some balls pretty nicely as well. Some people are like, they can really only play kind of like direct line passes, and he had a couple moments where he played like a nicely shaped through ball that had some curve on it that kind of like ran into somebody's path and stride. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this wasn't a bad performance. It just I guess I'm still just kind of like waiting for something, and maybe I need to adjust my expectations, but I just can't recall him putting in a performance yet that's really made me go like, wow, like there's a guy.
Of all the midfielders, I would say he's closest, in my opinion, and this is my expectation, is more closest aligned with Drexler in terms of he's not going to give you much offensively, not defensively either. He's just going to be a good workhorse there to do some of the dirty work. That's how I vision him. I don't see him as a Salazar type or an Idrizi or even a Flick or Itakura. I think he's just a guy you plug in there to kind of just do the work, and that's it. Now, do we need 2 of those guys on the pitch at the same time? Probably not. You probably want something like a Salazar or an Idrizi out there more so, but yeah, it's interesting. I wonder when Salazar's gonna be back. Yeah, I don't know what the situation is with him. Not sure, but I do know Salazar is segues, right? The master of segues are SchalkeMerica. Salazar has been officially now a Schalke player going forward. As is Blendi Idrizi. So that's good to see. And as you mentioned earlier, also, Simon Terodde got the extension bump because of the goals or performance this season. So now those 3 players are coming back next year for sure. All we need to hear is Thomas Ouwejan's name, and I think we're going to be pretty happy right now with everything that's going on, Jack.
Yeah, Schroeder staying busy in the international break, adding a year to Idrizi's contract. So he's going to be with us until 2024. And then Salazar officially signed through the end of 25-26 season. So yeah, it'd be interesting. And the thing is, Salazar's still only 22, something like that.
22, 24, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's on the younger side. I don't even think he's 24 yet. So he's actually younger than maybe I realized, and maybe he has more room to grow and improve. For some reason, I'm mildly concerned about him, in the sense that if we get promoted, and this is not, a primary concern right now, because we need to get there first from putting, anyway, but assuming that happens, like we talk about some of the things that frustrate us about him. And I just feel like those are going to be magnified in the first division even more. And so I wonder if sort of like the reputation he has at the moment is sort of like, one of our more creative players that can kind of go on a dribble and do some things, if some of that is a little bit more limited, and he just ends up being the share of frustration is increased, and the good stuff is decreased. But in the meantime, all you can really say is this is a Schalke team that had our talent, kind of stripped from us because of the relegation and everything. And so, when you do have a player like Salazar who does, have some of those moments, it's not a bad idea to lock them up while you can and make sure that you're trying to, slowly kind of rebuild this thing and, lock in your good talent.
Yeah, and before I get to the question in the chat, a guy we forget about that's still technically a Schalke player that could serve us very well in the Bundesliga. I mean, Harit. He's having himself a pretty decent season over there at Marseille. I don't know what the situation would be like whether he wants to come back or wants to stay at Marseille. Will they pick him up, pay Schalke, which would be nice if they pay Schalke for him because he's doing pretty well there. But if he does come back, it poses an interesting dilemma because Harit kind of was the ringleader of Schalke last year, right? He was one of the more influential players. He was probably the best player on the team. And now he's coming to a team that's a completely different team. It's arguably not his team anymore. Well, not arguably. It is not his team anymore. It's probably Simon Terodde's team. He's the one who's probably pushing all the buttons, telling people what to do. Obviously, Latza's in the mix now. You got a lot of more different heads there. Ouwejan's involved. So you got a lot of guys who take the claim of this is my team, and having Amin Harit thrown in there, while his talent would be amazing to have and the things he could do, what he's done in the past, would help the team, no doubt. How would that work from a mentality wise? Would it work? I don't know. What are your thoughts on possibility of having Harit if he comes back or not?
Man, there are so many Schalke fans that just will love this guy endlessly, in perpetuity. And to me, I guess my opinion is I'm just kind of emotionally drained by Harit and his involvement in the team at this point. Listen, if he wants to come back, I mean, I guess I'm not going to say no. He has that ability, and who knows how he would look if we actually had a legitimate striker in front of him, which we haven't had during his tenure pretty much.
Yeah.
Assuming Simon Terodde, if he makes that step up to the Bundesliga, and we do as well, can still be a somewhat reliable goal scorer. It'd be interesting to see how Harit fits into a team where he isn't maybe forced to come up with as many goals or try to as he was in other situations. There's so much focus paid attention to Terodde on long balls in the box and everything. It might open up some more space in the midfield for Harit to do what he does best. So who knows? Interesting to kind of think about for the future. I'm not overly concerned about it at the moment. Obviously more concerned with the upcoming games and everything, but something to kind of keep an eye on the horizon for.
Ultimately, I don't think he's coming back to Schalke. Like Utah says, I think Marseille will probably eventually pick him up, or somebody else will pick him up, and Schalke will move on from him, as they probably should, especially if they can get some decent coin from him. I'll be optimistic for a second. If we make it to the Bundesliga, Terodde's previous exploits in the Bundesliga, while he was the main guy in the Zweite Liga, when he went up to the Bundesliga, he would always come off as a substitute. So if we get promoted next year, I want to see him as a starter to see if he can actually produce in the league. He'll be 35 at that point, maybe not even that old, and he's producing right now. So let's see what he can do. I'm curious to see. It'd be a nice way to end his career if he has a really great year in a Bundesliga. But let's get there first. So the question I was talking about was, who do you think will be on the bench the next few games when Salazar is back? Obviously, we'll pull up the thing right again on the midfield here. There's lots of options here. Pascal say maybe Flick or Kaminsky, put Itakura back in the corner and in the center back position. Who do you think should be dropped? I mean, I know who I want to say, but I want to hear what you say first.
People, I mean, who's going to be dropped from the starting 11 that we had in this game against Dresden? I mean, to me, Latza, probably. Yeah. Loda eventually, whenever we figure out, what's going on with the right back situation. I mean, Flick is obviously a contender to be dropped as well. And that's just because he's never been, like a regular in that position until more recently. And there's still a lot of rotation happening there. I'm glad he's in the mix, but I don't think he's like a locked in starter every game or anything. Yeah. There's mouths to feed in the midfield for sure when you talk about Paulsen and Idrisi as well. Cherlanov didn't start in this game. Salif Sane is probably still a starter for the most part, although the jury's kind of mixed on him at the moment, I think, among the Schalke faithful. I mean, it's tough. It's tough because Çalhanoğlu and Ouwejan are both left backs, but part of me is just play Ouwejan on the right or something, and play Çalhanoğlu on the left, and just actually get some proper backs in. But I don't know. Yeah. Those are the main guys. I think Itakura and Thiaw are obviously a lock, as is Frazel, and Terodde and Bolter more often than not are going to be your two up top. So for me, it's Drexler, Latza, Flick, Loda probably.
Yeah, I think Lots is gonna be the first guy I'm taking off for Salazar. Because as I mentioned before, Salazar or Idrizi should be the one to fit. Now, if you bring in Idrizi as well, who do you drop? That makes it difficult. You think it would be Drexler would be the next guy, even though Drexler doesn't do anything to deserve being dropped. But Idrizi and Salazar have a little bit more upside offensively, and so when you play the big boys at the top, you may need something like that. But you also will need a player like Drexler. So I say Latza first. Honestly. Loda obviously is going to be dropped. Hopefully Vinheim gets healthy sometime soon so we get to use him. I don't know if that's possible or not, but Loda obviously needs to get dropped. But I think, the interesting question, which we've talked about many times, is, if Sane, once he's fully healthy, you're probably dropping Kaminsky. And then the question is, keeping Itakura in the midfield and putting Sane with Tiao, or do you put Itakura in the back with Sane in the middle, or what do we do here? You got all kinds of options. All these guys are so versatile. Even Tiao can play in the midfield probably. But though I'd probably want to see him in the middle. So yeah, it's a lot of options, but I think I'm with you. I think Latza and Loda are probably the first names off the sheet once some of the healthier guys come back for this stretch run. So let's see. Yeah, big weekend ahead, like you mentioned. Not only do Werder play St. Pauli 1 versus 3, Darmstadt play Nuremberg 2 versus 5, and we play Heidenheim. They're 7th place. Don't forget about them.
Yeah, I mean, if Werder and St. Pauli draw and Darmstadt loses or draws as well and we win, we're top of the league. Like, I mean, actually, we would be tied on points with Werder Bremen, right? I don't know what who would actually be first place in that situation.
We have the better goal differential, so we would be in first, I believe.
Is it a head-to-head, though? Is it goal difference? It's probably goal difference.
Head-to-head is 1-1. We haven't played them a second time. So.
That's true. Yeah. So, so there you go. Could happen just like that. And this is what we've been saying all season is we haven't we've had a good season, but we just haven't always rattled off results consistently. It's like we'll win a game, then we'll draw, win a game, then lose, whatever. And now we have 3 wins in a row. It's going to be tough to ask for a 4th in a row, especially, but we will see. And if we can, good things could happen to us. I think at a minimum, we're going to be in the promotion places probably. Kind of regardless of what happens, and maybe even the potential to take it all the way to the top.
Yeah, I'd love to see us in the top 2 spot. I've mentioned this for a while now. I don't want to see us against the Bundesliga club.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because there's a Katuchu mention in the chat, so I have to immediately jump to that. Katuchu and Terodde, Ahmed Katuchu and Terodde would my brain might actually explode. I love that so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting. Bring back Katuchu. That's the next hashtag. All right. On that note, anything else you need to talk about before we wrap this up?
No, I think that's it. Just looking forward to this weekend's action for sure. This actually might be one of the first weekends where I watch a decent amount of like non-Schalke Bundesliga too, because obviously following what's going on, but I haven't actually sat down and watched a lot of full games. And I might try to tune in for some this weekend. And yeah, in the chat, free Kuduchu, always and forever.
That's right. So the game this weekend is on. I lost where I'm at. Here we go. Saturday morning. I think we should do a live stream. It's on ESPN. It is on ESPN.
What time is it at?
7:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Jack time.
Yeah, we'll see.
But there will be. It's on ESPN, which is a great news because finding these dodgy streams is not cool, man. Last live stream we did had to go to the Eastern block to find a stream that worked, so I don't want to do that again. But anyway, let's wrap this bad boy up on Jack. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you sign up for the Schalke US newsletter. Not only do you get info on the club, but you get all the latest from all the local clubs around North America, Canada, US, maybe even Mexico, who knows. And maybe hear some things about our podcast. Maybe not so much, but keep tuning in each week. We'll bring you the latest from the Royal Blues. If there are any topics you'd like us to discuss, any videos you want us to do, just let us know at SchalkeMerica. You know where to find us all across social media. Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
At JMMangan, JMMangan on Twitter.
Very good. As always, you can follow me at R_KHARMAN. Until the next podcast comes or the live stream on Saturday, we'll catch you soon. Glück auf.